Hello again guys, it's Angelo, and to continue our little podcast from the previous video where we discussed my concerns with Legion, today we're talking about the things I am super excited for. Now, you'll notice that the list of exciting things is a lot longer than the list of concerns, and that is simply because there's just tons more exciting and promising factors to this expansion. Now, I won't lie to you, after Warlords of Draenor's, let's call it a fiasco, I will remain skeptical until I have proof at hand on the live servers, after 1 or 2 content patches. But the content that I have seen via the beta does give the impression of Legion bearing lots of potential to do this game really good. Now, again, this is a podcast type of video, and the footage in the background will not be essential to the essence of the video, so feel free to roam around and just do random things while listening. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and get to the point. The first thing we'll talk about are Mythic Plus Dungeons. Finally, Blizzard have found a way to make dungeons matter for more than a month or 2 after the release of new content. I've discussed how Mythic Plus Dungeons work in a previous video, so if you'd like to know more about them, please be sure to check that video out, but know that they look incredibly promising and offer almost endless amounts of gameplay and variety to you as a player. Ranging in difficulty from easy to unspeakably difficult, this dungeon difficulty, and its gear, is easily competitive with the raiding scene. That's also what makes it so valuable. It's time efficient and doesn't require as much of an investment as raiding does. This offers huge incentives for rather casually oriented players to challenge themselves, rewarding them with very good gear while giving hardcore players something to do while not raiding. Next up, we have the profession system. Now, I was a bit skeptical about the changes to it first, but after trying them all out, I must admit that I thoroughly enjoyed them actually. The new profession system is set up similar to the old one, but with a lot more to do and a lot less to restrict the player. Legion professions stick to the former principle of not forcing a player to have a set skill level to pursue your profession, which makes things like changing your profession for or during a new expansion a lot easier. On top of that, your professions now have their own questing system. So, your trainer will give you quests to go and venture out into the world, collecting things like fur or cloth, or finding other things that you need to craft your items. You can then come back and craft this item, and can be assigned another list of materials to gather or items to craft. This will level up your professions 3 points or more per assignment completed, and gets the player involved in the environment, which is really nice. You also meet interesting new lore characters, learn certain skill sets for your professions from them, and other things. I'm sure that the system will prove its worth for most people. I myself certainly like it. Now, leveling is another exciting part of the new expansion. I know, many of you will probably dislike leveling, and believe me, I was never a big fan of it myself until around Mists of Pandaria. But once again, Blizzard has managed to make leveling incredibly fun, engaging, and all in all a beautiful experience. More so, of course, the first time than any other time. Almost every quest hub feels alive, and the story of all the different characters you meet throughout your journey is super interesting. I think that the worst leveling zone per se is probably Stormheim in my opinion, but that's really just due to its weird layout. And Stormheim still tops most other zones in WoW completely. There's much more lore and storyline to be found in these new questing zones, and even more hidden gimmicks, treasures, and the like. I think that even players who truly dread leveling, or rather the leveling process at the beginning of each expansion, will have to admit that Legion's storyline is incredibly interesting and grasping. And adding world quests to the game, which are accessible at level 110 by the way, will actually make questing an important factor at max level, which I personally really like. Now, raiding is another very exciting factor, and there's almost no discussion that, well, actually to wind back, Warlords of Draenor had an excellent raiding content for players, and when it comes to boss difficulty, complexity, and overall feeling, I'd even go as far as to vote the Hellfire Citadel as one of the best raids yet. Sure, it's not gonna compete with the likes of the Throne of Thunder, Ulduar, Icecrown Citadel, or even the Sunwell Plateau, but I felt as if it was quality content, at least when we're talking about the gameplay merit of it. Legion's 2 raids for the first content patch, the Emerald Nightmare and the Nighthold, also play and feel very solid. All bosses look like a lot of fun, as well as seemingly super difficult on Mythic difficulty as far as I can tell so far. Now, I haven't tested all of the bosses yet, but I have encountered the majority and must admit that they look very promising. The aesthetics and feel of the Nighthold are incredibly refreshing after having a lot of our raid environments set inside a concealed environment in the past. Now, next on our list is Suramar. Suramar and all of its facets are also an exciting new feature coming up in Legion. Apart from being a pure fountain of storyline and quests for us, Suramar serves as an artifact power generator, really. The zone isn't available until the player has reached level 110 and basically gives artifact power with almost every completed quest. You have to support a Nightfallen rebellion in an attempt to retake Suramar City from the grasps of Grand Magistrix Elisande and the Burning Legion. You quest yourself through various dailies, weeklies, different world quests, and reputation, are able to unlock 2 mythic-only dungeons, the Archway and the Court of Stars, and understand the Legion's plans here on Azeroth more deeply. Suramar has a lot to offer for the player, and it will keep you occupied for a very long time to come. Last up, we have our artifact weapons and the class order hall. Now let's start off with the artifact weapons though. Before we get into more detail, let me explain why exactly the artifacts are so incredibly genius in my opinion. First off, they give Blizzard a perfect way not to overload the game with new mechanics and abilities for each class, while, plot twist, adding a whole bunch of new mechanics and ability to each class. Now, this sounds crazy, but it is really perfect honestly. Should the artifact system prove its worth in the long run, Blizzard can continue the use of it in further add-ons. Should they fail their use, Blizzard can discontinue the idea and can change and or reset things accordingly. Now that being said, the artifact weapons offer exciting new abilities to every class and a very rewarding skill tree or artifact path. What I like about it the most is that it offers the player base a long-term investment to work on throughout most of the expansion. The Order Hall offers similar longevity. Similar to the Garrison model, your Order Hall is upgradable, but with a lot more impact on your further gameplay and with a lot more variety and customization involved. It has its own talent tree for you to work your way through, has missions just like your Garrison, has a long, incredibly interesting storyline for you to quest through, and lets you gather artifact knowledge with further ties into your artifact weapon. You can also farm a complete armor set for your class through the Class Order Hall and even upgrade it. Now, to conclude this podcast, I feel as if Legion will bring a seemingly endless amount of opportunities for a good expansion with it. There's a lot more good things to the expansion than I have mentioned in this video, but you'll find so much more out yourself once it goes live at the end of the month. Thank you so much for listening, my friends. Up next, I'll be releasing my revised Shadow Priest artifact path for all of the Shadow Priests out there, before focusing on broader WoW content again, similar to this podcast. These podcast types of videos are actually a lot of fun to make, so if you have actually enjoyed this, please be sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts on the expansion, and feel free to subscribe to stay on top of the upcoming content. Now, have a good one guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.